What's up everybody, Sam Smyers here. Today I want you to make a deep house or slap house style cover song that you've been seeing a lot of these bigger commercial EDM record labels releasing, such as Armada or Spinnin. So I'll be going through my cover of Don't Forget My Love by Diplo. Now before we get started today, please go ahead and give this video a like, and also please go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. All right, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let me just play a few sections of the song so you can get an idea of how it sounds.
Remember the feeling of my fingertips on your skin. And the way that I kiss is
So that's the verse. Let's go ahead and play some of the pre-chorus. Now let's go ahead and listen to some of the drop. Now let's go ahead and listen to the second half of the drop. Now let's go ahead and check out some of the second verse. All right, so let's go ahead and just check out some of the vocals first of all. Now I have everything grouped together. You can see I have the vocals grouped, drums, bass, instruments, and the effects. So on the groups, I have usually like compression and EQ. So on the vocals, I have the VC160 and then a Pro Q3 on the group. And for the actual vocal, I have it pitched down -2 semitones. So let's go ahead and just check out what it sounds like originally, what the vocalist sent me.
the way that I kiss is taste sweet after drinking.
And let's go ahead and just pitch it down -2 semitones.
The way that I kiss is taste sweet after drinking.
And so that's a technique that you'll hear in a lot of deep house or slap house style songs, especially in these covers. I hear a lot of these covers, like on Spotify, there's a few playlists you can check out that have slap house or deep house covers. And a lot of the vocals are always pitched down. So I did that to all the vocals just to get them to really fit that slap house, deep house vibe. Now let's just check out some of the processing on here. So basically, I'll cut out some of the lows on the EQ, add in my two compressors, the 1176 style and the LA2A style. Then I'll do some CLA vocals just to get some treble and compression out of them and maybe some bass frequencies. Then I'll DS, so I have the de-esser. Then I have a Pro Q3, giving a pretty big boost in the high end. And the Fresh Air, which is a free plugin, which is really great to add some high-end saturation and excitement. The Soothe 2, and then another Pro DS. And then on top of that, for my effects, I have a Hall verb and an eighth note delay. And then for the rest of my effects, I just put them on separate tracks. So I have these tracks frozen, and these are just reverbs and delays just to help the lead vocal fit into the mix. And then on the second verse, once I had all that processing done for that first lead vocal, I copy and pasted the settings to the second verse vocals and I put them onto new tracks because you sing some of these vocals in the second verse a bit higher, and that required a bit different EQing. And so that's something that you can do, is you can get the settings how you want them for your lead vocal for a certain section. And then if the singer sings higher, lower, quieter, louder, you can separate those vocals onto a separate track and then make some minor adjustments to the settings of the vocals for those different sections.
Play in the dark, rules break, why pretend we take.
And then these ones.
And true, sapphire to die, sweet roll, excite your eyes. And
then after that, I have some reverb and delays that are going to be here just for the Don't Forget My Love. And then I have this build-up where I just take love and repeat it over and over. And you hear this a lot in the build-ups before drops. So let's check out that out in the whole track.
don't forget my love.
And then we have some doubles.
Don't forget my love.
Pretty dry, no effects on them. And then I have the rest of my reverbs and delays. Here's a little ear candy thing that I added. Really subtle, but let's check it out in the track. And then I have some quarter note delays. Let's check it out on the track.
On your skin.
And then I have some of these shimmer reverbs. I use the Valhalla Shimmer plugin, which is like a really cool reverb, like a really long, shimmery sounding reverb. You can get some really interesting effects with it. So there you can hear a few examples of using that shimmer reverb. And let's go ahead and just check out some other things. I have these low, Don't Forget My Loves. Let's check that out in the track.
Don't forget my love. Don't forget, don't forget, don't forget my love.
And those were the vocal chops. And then I have some other random effects. Here's a low auto-tune vocal. For the verse, here's some more reverbs and delays. Let's just solo all these together. And in the track.
Eyes in there, the love. Playing the dark. Rules break, why pretend we take.
And then here's another Don't Forget My Love, or just Don't Forget, that's repeated.
Forget my love, forget my love, forget my love, forget my love, forget.
And I took that from the original song where he does that in the second build-up. He has that Don't Forget repeat, and I just copied that and put that into my version.
Don't forget my love.
So that's the basics of the vocals. I know it looks like a lot, but that's just because instead of me putting effects onto the lead vocal track, I'm just separating them onto separate tracks. Really, I just have this lead vocal and then the doubles. Those are the main vocals for this track. And I don't have any other harmonies or anything like that, just the lead vocal and then those two doubles. Now let's check out some of the drums. For the intro, I have these tops.
And our kisses taste sweet enough to drink.
I have some claps.
Into your love while you breathe me in.
Now let's check out the kick. So for the kick, I have some automation on an EQ8, automating the lows. So you can see I'm sweeping that low cut, and then I take all of it off for when the drop happens. And that's the only kick layer. And then I have some clap layers. Let's check out some of the other drums in this build-up. I've got a ride. I have a shaker. I have some snares. So all the drums in that build-up, I'll go ahead and play all those together.
Don't forget my love. Don't forget my.
And let's just go ahead and check out some of the drums in the drop now. We can check out this hat loop. I have a shaker. I have a more organic sounding hat. And then all together, let's go ahead and solo those. Here's just an open hat. And let's check out this snare riser. Just using that to get into a new section. I want to show you some of these kick rolls for these fills. Let's listen to these. You'll hear that style of roll in a lot of slap house, and basically it's just a kick pattern. And I'm doing some automation with this frequency. So watch the EQ8 down here. You can see I'm adding back the low end and also some of the high end. Here's the snare fill. And then I've got a crash. This is a shorter crash. And then I have this vibra slap sound, which I think is pretty cool. So let me play all those drop drums together now. And now let's check out some of the drums in the second verse. I had this fast trap hat, which I eventually add back in on the last drop. And so let's listen to the last drop drums. I also add in that really noisy ride there, just to make that last part of the drop a bit different, the drums a bit different. And so that's basically it for all the drums. Let's go ahead and just check out the bass. So for the verse, I'm just using a Reese bass. Let's check out the MIDI. So it just goes F, G, A, C, pretty simple MIDI. And just using a Serum preset for that Reese bass. We can check out some of the bass plucks now in the drop. And you can see there I've got a little pitch bend on one of those notes, and here are the notes of that progression. And I'm just using, this is the MIDI. I eventually bounced it down to audio. I just used a Serum, we can check it out. The presets used a slap bass preset. And then one of the other layers, I have just a one-shot bass sound. So a lot of times what I do with my basses, I'll bounce them down just so I can see what's going on. So you can see I've got these really loud peaks here, but I want those peaks because it adds to that pluckiness of the slap bass. So the slap bass is those two layers, and then I also have these reverse basses. And then for the second verse, I have the bass plucks, but I have them filtered. So this is what the bass sounds like in the second verse. So that does it for the bass. Let's go ahead and check out the instruments now. Let's check out the instruments group. I have a solid bus compressor, of course, putting the bass into mono. Before that, I have the Ozone 9 exciter, gentle high-end excitement. I have it turned off for now just to save me on CPU. A Pro Q3, and then I have the Kickstart 2 with it sidechained to the kick. Let's check out the instruments. One thing I do want to mention about the chord progressions is that I use the chord progressions from the original song. I didn't change them, and that helped me just get this cover done a lot faster. And you can do that. You can just reuse the chord progressions from the original track, or you can come up with your own. It's really up to you. But for this song, I wanted to keep a lot of the original elements like the chord progression and then also that lead melody that he has in the original song that's like a guitar. I used the same lead melody, but I just replayed it using piano sounds, and that's what this hook melody is. We'll check out some of these plucks in the intro, these instrument plucks. That's going to be a Medusa style of pluck for the first one, and then I duplicated it onto a second track and raised it up an octave. These are just going F, G, A, C, so the same notes as that Reese bass. And then I have this pretty cool vocal pad. And that's this plugin called Farlight, which I found on Contact. So it was a Farlight preset, and it has this really cool, eerie vocal pad sound. So some of the other instruments in the verses, we have some strings, some choir sounds. I have a random synth hit. I have this lead pluck. And then these are just pitch bend automations just to make it a bit more interesting. And then I changed it up for the second verse. I add a new pattern.
Like a shot rings out in the darkness.
Just to add a new melody to that second verse, and then I also layered it with another Serum patch. And then I have this ARP, which I have in the build-up. I have the lead sound. Which is just an M1 keys. I've got a contact string. And then that keyboard sound. Here's some additional synth hits. So yeah, quite a lot of synth sounds going on in the pre and also in the start. And so let's check out the lead sounds in the drop. That's going to be the first layer. It's just like a horn sound, and this is the second layer. Just another horn sample rhythm. So that's basically the lead sound for the melody in the drop. And eventually I add in back some of the sounds from the pre and the verse. Those are the instruments in the drop. And I add in another melody in the second verse. Let's check that out in the track. Very subtle, but it adds to that second verse to make it a bit more interesting. And then at the end, for the last drop, I have some keys playing. And then a string build up. Now in the track. And then lastly, I have atmospheres. These are just going to be loops that I found on Splice. You can just find atmospheres in the keys of your song. Like a drone sound, something pretty repetitive, just to add some more texture and tension to the track. So let's check out all the instruments together in the second verse. And then in the build-up. And now in the drop. So that does it for the instruments group. Let's check out some of the effects. For the effects, I really just have my uplifters, downlifters in between sections. In order to figure out where my sections are, I always put in these little markers just to help me, and that helps me figure out where exactly to put all of my uprisers, downlifters, uplifters, downlifters, however you call them. So I have a lot of those in there, and I have random one-shots for ear candy. Here's a little metal sound. And now on the track. Here's a little knock sound. And in the track. So yeah, just something for some ear candy. And so that's really it, just uplifters, downlifters, nothing too crazy with the effects. And let's check out some of the mastering. So this is some of the mastering I did. I have my solid bus compressor, and I have a K-clip. It's turned off now for CPU. Some of these things on the master are turned off just to save for CPU. So this is going to add some soft clipping after the bus compression. I have a Pro Q3, but when I do have my Pro Q3 on and I'm doing any kind of EQing, I always make sure to set it on this grid, the 6 dB, because if it were on 12 dB, then I'd be making too big of cuts or boosts. So the 6 dB helps me just make finer adjustments to the EQ. And then I had the Ozone Exciter adding the mid-range preset. And then on top of that, I had the Ozone Vintage Tape adding the clarity preset. So I'm doing a lot of saturation. Probably didn't need to add both of those, but I felt like I just really wanted this track to be very saturated in your face. And then I'm doing this thing where the FabFilter Pro G is an expander as well. So if you go to Bus, you have this thing called Mastering Subtle Stereo Expansion. And so what this does is that it actually just expands the sides of your track. So let's go ahead and listen to the drop without this turned on. I'll turn it off. And now I'll go ahead and turn it on. So hopefully you could hear the difference of how much wider it sounds with this expansion going on. And then after that, I added some more stereo expansion using the Imager plugin, and then I have the Pro L2, and make sure to turn on oversampling when you do bounce down your master. And I'm slamming the limiting pretty hard. Let's go ahead and just check it out. So for the style track, you can slam your limiting pretty hard because it's that slap house in your face commercial EDM style. And I actually used the hard rock and metal dynamic punch preset and made a few adjustments to the attack and release down here. So that about does it for my cover of Don't Forget My Love. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. And finally, if you'd like to check out any of my senior preset packs, I'll put links down below for those as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.